In today's edition of One Nation Weather, we're going to cover the severe weather hotspot in portions of the plains in a timely manner in about 5 minutes that no one else can do. So let's go ahead and get on through this. Wednesday storm reports, you can see we had 11 tornado reports. We had one in Arkansas, but most of our reports came in the eastern Colorado and into portions of Kansas zone, and really more of those are going to come for the day today. We had some large hail reports, 50 of those, 12 of those on the 2-inch or greater side, mainly just normal wind reports, but one of them did exceed that range and get up into the hurricane force range. Now here's a look at your Thursday setup. You can see it's looking pretty dry back towards the west coast. Really, it's going to be very dry there at times over the course of the next week or so due to a high pressure ridge that's going to move in. You can see we've got severe flooding stretching all the way off the Rockies and moving through the plains, as well as down here into portions of the Ark-La-Tex zone. We'll see some rainfall stretching as far east as the Ohio Valley and down towards Florida and Georgia. Here's your Thursday high temperatures. We'll get many 80s to stretch as far from the southeast all the way up in places like even towards Chicago. We might see some of those temperatures in the 70s to near 80. Places like Indiana, you might get Indianapolis might hit 83 today. We're looking at temperatures pretty comfortable along the west coast and in the northeast for the day today, but look at those 90s getting going in the central plains. That's why we're looking at the potential for a level 3 severe weather threat. Portions of western Kansas curling around towards the central Oklahoma region, places in northern Texas all the way up to North Dakota. That's where we're looking at that severe risk today. But we have a level 1 with a low pressure zone for here right around the Gulf Coast. But in general, that's going to stay mainly to some wind and hail. Now you could see those dew points getting up into the 70s in portions of Texas and Louisiana. Now that's not where the focal point for our severe weather threat is, but we still got 60s where that is and 50s. So that's going to be plenty to support this. And look how far into the high plains these 60s go, all the way up almost to Canada, where we're going to see some of those 60-degree dew point readings later this afternoon, which allows that storm energy to really there. You can see that curl around into Kansas, some of that energy. I think a little bit more will make it over into places of Colorado than what's depicted, but you could definitely see some of that also getting going into the high plains, but really high energy there into portions of Texas and Louisiana. Again, you can see that wind risk today, a level 2 wind risk, but definitely some bow echo segments, some of those squall lines getting going today, as well as in the southeast. But it's really this hail risk for 2-inch or greater hail going in that zone for here from Kansas into central Oklahoma. That's where we're really looking out for tornadoes as well. Here's that tornado energy. You can see some of those red colors indicating a better chance for some of those tornadoes in that zone, which is why we are looking at the hatched risk for tornadoes. Now what this means is there's a potential for EF2 tornadoes in this zone, so be ready for some nighttime threats. Be ready to get in a safe place, whether that's an exterior area where you go into your tornado shelter, or if you don't have that, an interior room in your house. You need to know where to go when the warnings come and have a way to get those warnings. South Dakota down to Texas at least having some risk of tornadoes. So here we go. Throughout the morning today, you'll really notice the swirl of the low pressure, and I think we might start to see some damaging winds as early as lunchtime with this line. But look at how this really progresses as the day goes on. Some of these spotty cells ahead of it in portions of Nebraska. We've got a bow echo segment around 4 p.m. Central Time, working its way out of Colorado into Kansas. More of these severe cells as the day goes on. Here we go into Oklahoma. There's one of those cells. There could be some tornadoes and huge hail within that cell as that pushes off to the east. It's really just going to be this swirling area of low pressure allowing new cells to develop. There comes some in portions of West Kansas. I do think our threat will be winding down into the overnight hours of tonight, but notice that bow segment entering portions of Arkansas. We could at least still see some remnant severe weather there, as well as heavy rain and severe weather into portions of the Dakotas. You could see some of those heavier downpours and storms really getting going in that zone. This doesn't look to be quite as severe, but definitely some embedded rotation and some severe storms could result in 1 or 2 tornadoes, some gusty winds, and again that hail, maybe an inch or so in diameter. Your flood risk is also elevated into some of these zones coming off the Rockies. We have a level 3 flood threat in portions of southwest Nebraska, portions of northeast Colorado, as well as portions of northwest Kansas. And we have another zone for you here in the mid-south where we could see some of that flooding. And here's what the rain is that's going to be triggering that. First of all, you see that yellow zone into portions of Louisiana where that flood threat was. We could get 4 to 5 inches of rain within that zone, a 2 to 4 inch zone in many spots in that area as well as there. And, we're seeing a drought in many portions of the plains, but we don't need that much rain, and you can see there's more of that rain in Louisiana and the mid-south. Your Friday setup brings more severe to portions of Oklahoma back to the Mexico border in Texas. We also have more severe weather curling along a warm front in Nebraska into Iowa, that same low-pressure system being a culprit here. And then we've got more flooding into the Dakotas for tomorrow, so you can see those highs once again, 80s and 90s in the southern tier. We've got some 70s to near 80 in the northern tier, and look at this heat starting to build into the west. You can see your Friday severe risk. This will include a few tornadoes, gusty winds, and some hail curling around. Again, a level 1 risk at least for portions of Missouri and Oklahoma. And then notice from Oklahoma City back through Wichita Falls down to the Texas border there. That's where we're looking at that best threat for severe weather. And you can see we continue to see more of this rainfall shifting east for your Mother's Day weekend for you here on Saturday. And you can see more of that severe weather. Iowa, a hot spot, as well as South Texas, a hot spot. So Brownsville, Corpus Christi, and Des Moines, some of the hot spots on your Saturday. Now, here's a look at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Cooler air into portions of the northeast back into the central and south tier. We've got some warmer air right around the southeast, and then some very hot air in the northwest. We're looking at below average precipitation for the northern tier and above average for the southern tier as we go 6 to 10 days out. Look at these temperatures that are going to get going into the Pacific Northwest. Temperatures in the 90s next Tuesday. And here's a look at the pattern change. Look at that upper level high pressure ridge for you here, really blocking out many of these storms for you here. So we'll see how that goes, but hopefully next week will be a bit quieter, but it will definitely be warmer. Subscribe, hit the like button, and here are the credits.